She was supposed to be collateral damage. A business transaction wrapped in white silk and empty vows. But when Kong Dae-young looked at Amara Williams across the altar, his jaw tight enough to shatter teeth, he made her a promise that would rewrite both their fates. I'll ruin you for other men. Not a confession. Threat. And the worst part, he meant every word. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Because to understand how a woman like Amara ended up married to Seoul's most dangerous man, you need to know 3 things. First, her father's debt was $27 million. Second, the Kim syndicate doesn't forgive, doesn't forget, and definitely doesn't negotiate. And third, Dae-young's hatred for her wasn't personal. It was ancestral. But let me ask you something before we continue. Have you ever hated someone so much that your body betrays you? Where anger and desire become the same emotion, and you can't tell if you want to destroy them or devour them? Keep that question in your mind. Because by the end of this story, you'll understand why Dae-young's words weren't just cruel. They were a prophecy. 3 months ago, Amara Williams stood in her father's study, watching him sign away her future with trembling hands. The contract was 17 pages long. She'd gotten to page 3 before her vision blurred. You'll marry Kong Dae-young, her father said, not meeting her eyes. His voice carried the hollow tone of a man already mourning. 6 months from now, the Kim family has agreed to erase my debt in exchange for me, Amara finished. Her voice didn't shake. She wouldn't give him that. You're selling me to the Korean Mafia like I'm property. You don't understand the people we're dealing with, Marcus Williams said, finally looking up. There were tears in his eyes, but Amara felt nothing. The Kim syndicate controls half of Asia's underground economy. They have people everywhere. Politicians, police, judges. If I don't give them what they want, they'll kill you, Amara said flatly. I know. I read the contract. She had. Every word. Including the clause that made her stomach turn. Upon consummation of marriage, all debts shall be considered paid in full. They weren't just buying her. They were ensuring the transaction would be complete. Her father reached for her hand, but she stepped back. Amara, please. Don't. The word came out sharp, final. You made your choice when you gambled away money that wasn't yours. Now I'm making mine. You're agreeing. Hope flickered in his eyes, and she hated him for it. I'm surviving, Amara corrected. There's a difference. She turned to leave, her braided hair swaying like a weapon down her back, but paused at the door. Just answer me one thing, Daddy. Was I ever more than a bargaining chip to you? Marcus Williams opened his mouth, then closed it. That silence told Amara everything she needed to know. Kong Dae-young stood in his penthouse office, 63 floors above the city, reading the same contract. His second-in-command, Min Jae, watched him carefully. The girl arrives in 2 weeks for the preliminary meetings. Her name is... I don't care what her name is, Dae-young interrupted, not looking up. His voice was ice wrapped in silk, the kind of tone that made grown men reconsider their life choices. She's William's daughter. That's all that matters. With respect, sir, perhaps you should know something about your future wife before. She's not my wife. Dae-young's eyes snapped up, and Min Jae actually flinched. She's a debt payment. A warm body attached to her father's mistakes. The moment I sign the final documents and we complete the transaction, she becomes irrelevant. Min Jae hesitated. The Kim family is very interested in this union. They've been pushing for it specifically. That made Dae-young's jaw tighten. Why? He asked, voice dangerous. Why would they care who I marry to collect Marcus Williams' debt? There are easier ways to liquidate assets. I don't know, sir. But Chairman Kim himself insisted it be you. And he insisted on the girl. Dae-young stared at his second-in-command for a long moment, then turned to the window. Seoul glittered beneath him like scattered diamonds, every light representing power, money, or fear. Find out why, he said quietly. Because the Kim family doesn't make sentimental decisions. If they want this specific girl married to me, there's a reason. Yes, sir. And Min Jae. Dae-young's reflection in the glass showed no emotion. Dig into Marcus Williams' past. Everything. where he went to school, who he knew, what deals he made before he got stupid enough to borrow from the Kim syndicate. I want to know why his daughter is valuable enough to trade for $27 million. 2 weeks later, Amara stepped off the plane at Incheon International Airport. The air in Seoul tasted different. Sharper. Like the city itself was made of edges. A driver waited for her, a man whose face suggested he'd killed people for less than bad manners. He held a sign with her name spelled wrong. She almost corrected him, then decided it didn't matter. The woman who cared about spelling her name right didn't exist anymore. The drive into the city took 40 minutes, but Amara barely noticed the skyline. She was too busy memorizing exits, counting security cameras, noting which buildings had accessible roofs. Survival instinct. Her mother had taught her that before the cancer took her when Amara was 16. "Baby girl," she'd said, her Nigerian accent thick even as morphine slurred her words. "You come from warriors. When life backs you into a corner, you don't cry. You fight. You find a way out even when there isn't one." Amara had thought she understood. She hadn't. Not until the car pulled up to a building that looked like it cost more than her entire neighborhood back home, and she realized her way out might not exist. Inside the penthouse, Dae-young watched her arrival on the security feed. She was beautiful. That irritated him. It would have been easier if she were plain, forgettable. But Amara Williams moved like she owned gravity itself, her dark skin luminous against the gray Seoul afternoon. Her expression neutral in a way that suggested she'd learned to hide everything that mattered. "She's here," Min-jae announced unnecessarily. "I have eyes," Dae-young replied. On screen, Amara paused in the lobby, tilting her head back to look at something beyond the camera's range. For just a moment, her mask slipped, and Dae-young saw something raw flicker across her face. Fear. Worse, grief. Then it was gone, locked away behind that carefully neutral expression, and she followed security toward the elevator. "Sir," Min-jae said carefully, "I found something about Marcus Williams." "Tell me." 28 years ago he worked for the Kim family, as an accountant. He handled their international transfers, helped them move money through African banks where Western authorities couldn't track it. Dae-young's eyes narrowed. "Then what happened?" "He disappeared. Took nothing, just vanished one night. The Kim family looked for him for years, but he'd gone deep. Changed his name, moved to Lagos, built a legitimate shipping business. Until he needed money," Dae-young finished. "Until he needed money," Min-jae confirmed. "And made the mistake of borrowing from the people he betrayed." The elevator dinged. Dae-young straightened his tie, a gesture of control, not nervousness, and positioned himself by the window. The door opened. Amara Williams walked in. And for the first time in 7 years, since the day he'd killed his first man at 19, Kang Dae-young felt something shift in his chest. It wasn't attraction. It was recognition. This woman had her father's eyes but not his weakness. She carried herself like someone who'd already survived the worst thing she could imagine and was now simply waiting for the next disaster. They studied each other in silence. 3 seconds. 5. "You're taller than I expected," Amara said finally. Her English was crisp and clean. "The photos didn't do you justice. You're exactly what I expected. Trouble wrapped in brown skin and bad decisions." The words hung in the air like a slap. Amara's fingers curled into fists at her sides, nails biting into her palms. Pain kept her focused. Pain kept her from doing something stupid like lunging at this arrogant man who looked at her like she was dirt on his expensive Italian shoes. "My father's bad decisions," she corrected, her voice steady despite the rage simmering beneath. "I'm just the one paying for them." Dae-young circled her slowly, predatory. "Sessing." His suit probably cost more than her college tuition, tailored so precisely it moved with him like a second skin. Everything about him screamed wealth, power, and danger. "Do you know what your father did?" he asked. Not looking at her now, but out the window at Seoul's skyline. "Before he became a respectable businessman in Lagos." Amara hesitated. "He worked in international finance." "He worked for the Kim family," Dae-young corrected, turning to face her. "Laundering blood money through African banks." He saw things, knew things, handled transactions that could have brought down entire governments. And then one day he just left. That was almost 30 years ago, Amara said. Before I was even born. The Kim family has long memories. Dae-young's smile was sharp enough to cut. They don't forget betrayal. They don't forgive theft. And they certainly don't let traitors live quiet lives in Lagos building shipping empires with money that rightfully belongs to them. Amara's stomach dropped. What are you saying? I'm saying your father's debt wasn't gambling losses. Dae-young moved closer, and Amara forced herself not to step back. It was interest. Compounded over 28 years on money he stole when he ran. The room tilted. That's not possible, Amara breathed. He would have told me. Would he? Dae-young's voice was soft now, almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. The same man who gambled away your future. The same man who signed a contract selling his daughter to pay off the people he betrayed. That man would have been honest with you. Amara wanted to defend her father. Wanted to say Dae-young was lying, manipulating her, trying to break her before the wedding. But she couldn't. Because deep down, in the place where daughters keep their most painful truths, she knew he was right. Why are you telling me this? She asked instead. Because I want you to understand something. Dae-young was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and dark like smoke and cedar. This marriage. It's not romance. It's not even a business transaction. It's punishment. For him, for you, for whatever sins your family committed that I'm not even privy to yet. Then why agree to it? Amara shot back, finding her spine. You're clearly powerful enough to refuse. So why marry someone you hate? For just a moment, so brief she almost missed it, something cracked in Dae-young's expression. Then it was gone, replaced by that cold mask. Because the Kim family owns me too, he said quietly. In different ways, perhaps. But owned nonetheless. And when Chairman Kim says jump, I don't ask how high. I just pray I land where he wants me to. The admission hung between them, unexpected and raw. Amara studied him with new eyes. She'd expected a monster. Tyrant. A man drunk on power and cruelty. But Kang Dae-young was something more complicated. He was a prisoner pretending to be a king. So we're both trapped, Amara said softly. We're both trapped, Dae-young agreed. Then his expression hardened again. But don't mistake shared circumstances for solidarity, Amara. I will fulfill the terms of this contract because I have no choice. I will marry you, I will consummate the marriage, and I will ensure the Kim family gets exactly what they paid for. There it was again. Consummate. And after that? Amara asked, hating how her voice wavered. After that, you'll live in this building. You'll have an allowance, security, everything you need. But you'll be my wife in name only. We'll attend events together when required, present a united front to the outside world. But behind closed doors. His eyes were ice. You don't exist to me. You say that now. Amara didn't know where the words came from, but they escaped before she could stop them. But you can't marry someone, live with them, and pretend they're not there. Sooner or later, you're going to have to acknowledge I'm a person. You laugh. Actually laughed. It was the coldest sound Amara had ever heard. You think you know me. He moved so fast she didn't have time to react, backing her against the wall. His hands on either side of her head, caging her in. Not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off his body. You think 6 months of playing house will make me forget what your family represents? What you represent? I don't represent anything, Amara said, forcing herself to meet his eyes. I'm just a woman whose father made terrible choices. You're a Williams, Dae-young corrected. And that name carries weight you don't even understand yet. History you're not aware of. Consequences that started before you were born and will continue long after this marriage becomes another transaction in the Kim family's ledger. His face was inches from hers now. Close enough that she could see the faint scar above his left eyebrow, the slight asymmetry in his features that somehow made him more attractive. She hated noticing that. So here's how this works, Dae-young continued, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. For the next 3 months, you'll attend etiquette classes, learn Korean customs, Korean language, how to be the perfect Mafia wife. You'll smile when required, stay silent when commanded, and play your role flawlessly. Or what? Amara challenged. Or I'll make sure your father's death is slow. Dae-young's expression didn't change. The Kim family wanted him dead the moment he resurfaced. I convinced them he was worth more alive, as leverage over you. But if you become difficult, if you embarrass me or worse, embarrass them, I'll hand him over personally and watch him beg for mercy that won't come. Amara's breath caught. He meant it. Every word. You're a monster, she whispered. Yes, Dae-young agreed simply. And in 3 months, you're going to marry me anyway. Because deep down, Amara Williams, you're a survivor. And survivors do what they must. He pushed off the wall, giving her space to breathe again. Min Jae will show you to your room. You'll stay here until the wedding, under guard. Not as a prisoner but as a guest. But don't test the boundaries. You won't like what happens. Amara straightened, refusing to show weakness. Is that all? No. Ding paused at his desk, pulling out a velvet box. He opened it, revealing a ring that probably cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. Platinum band, flawless diamond, cold and perfect. He crossed back to her, taking her left hand roughly. She tried to pull away. His grip tightened. Don't, he warned. Ding slid the ring onto her finger with surprising gentleness, the contradiction between his touch and his expression jarring. There, he said, still holding her hand. Now it's official. You belong to me. I belong to myself, Amara corrected, her voice shaking with barely contained fury. Ding's thumb brushed over the ring, the gesture almost tender. Then he looked up at her, and his eyes were full of something Amara couldn't name. Wasn't sure she wanted to. That's what I thought too, he said quietly. Once, a long time ago, before I learned that people like us don't get to belong to ourselves. We belong to our families, our debts, our mistakes. We're just pieces on a board, moved by hands we never see. Then why are you playing the game? Amara asked. Because, Dae-young said, releasing her hand. It's the only game there is. 3 weeks later, Amara stood in front of a mirror, practicing the bow her etiquette instructor had demonstrated 15 times already. Lower, Madam Park snapped in Korean. Amara understood enough now to know she was being insulted. You bow like American. Floppy. Disrespectful. I am American, Amara muttered in English. What was that? Nothing, Madam Park. The older woman circled her like a shark scenting blood. She was 60-something, rail-thin, and had the personality of barbed wire. For 3 weeks, she'd been drilling Amara on everything from proper tea ceremony technique to the 17 different ways to show respect through body language. Amara hated every minute, but she learned. Because Dae-young had been right about one thing. She was a survivor, and survivors adapted. Your Korean is improving, Madam Park admitted grudgingly. But your accent is still terrible. Mr. Kang's associates will mock him if you speak like this at the wedding. Then maybe I won't speak at all, Amara suggested. That would be wise. Madam Park's expression softened slightly. You should know, child, that Mr. Kong is being unusually patient with you. Amara laughed bitterly. Patient. He threatened to kill my father. Yes, Madam Park agreed. Which means he still sees your father as leverage. Other men in his position would have simply eliminated the problem. The fact that he's keeping Marcus Williams alive, that he's investing time and resources in training you properly. She paused. It suggests you're more valuable than you realize. I'm a debt payment, Amara said flatly. Perhaps. Madam Park's eyes were shrewd. Or perhaps you're something else entirely. Either way, pay attention during tonight's dinner. Chairman Kim will be there. Amara's head snapped up. Tonight. Mr. Kong didn't tell you. Madam Park looked almost amused. The Kim family wants to meet you formally, to ensure their investment is satisfactory. 5 hours later, Amara stood in front of her closet, filled with clothes she hadn't chosen, in sizes that fit perfectly because someone had measured her while she slept. There was a knock at the door. Come in, she called in Korean, proud that she managed it without stumbling over the pronunciation. Ing entered. Amara's breath caught despite herself. He wore a three-piece suit in charcoal gray. His hair styled back, and he moved with the deadly grace of a big cat. But it was his expression that stopped her. He looked worried. "You're not ready," he observed. "I don't know what to wear," Amara admitted. "The black dress. Third from the left." Daeung's eyes swept over her robe-clad form clinically. "And let your hair down. Chairman Kim prefers softness in women." Something in his tone made Amara's skin crawl. "How much does he know about me?" she asked. "The Kim family makes no investments blind. They've known about you since you were born, Amara. They've been watching your entire life, waiting." Jung replied. "Waiting for what?" Daeung was quiet for a long moment. "Do you know what your mother did before she married your father?" Amara froze. "She was a nurse. Before that, I don't know. She never talked about her life before meeting my father. Her name was Adiz Okonkwo," Daeung said softly. "And 29 years ago, she worked for the Kim family too. As a courier. Moving packages, documents, things that needed to cross borders without questions." The room spun. "That's not possible. It's not only possible, it's why this marriage exists." Daeung moved closer, and for once, there was no cruelty in his expression. Only something like pity. "Your parents didn't meet by chance, Samara. They were both Kim family assets who decided to run together, and they took something with them. Something valuable enough that Chairman Kim has spent 3 decades getting it back." Amara's knees went weak. She sat hard on the bed, the black dress forgotten. "What did they take?" "I don't know," Daeung admitted. "But tonight when you meet Chairman Kim, look into his eyes. Really look. Because whatever your parents stole, whatever they've been hiding all these years." He crouched in front of her, forcing her to meet his gaze. "He thinks you know where it is." Daeung's words echoed in Amara's mind as she stared at her reflection 2 hours later. The black dress fit like it had been sewn onto her body. Her hair fell in soft waves past her shoulders. Diamond earrings, expensive, cold against her skin, caught the light. She looked like someone else. "I don't know anything," Amara whispered to her reflection. "My mother never told me anything about her past. She barely talked about Nigeria, let alone working for the Korean Mafia." But even as she said it, fragments of memory surfaced. Her mother, whispering in Igbo on the phone late at night when she thought Amara was asleep. The way she'd tense whenever strangers approached them in public. How she taught Amara to memorize exits, to always sit facing the door, to never trust anyone completely. "Baby girl," she'd said once, during one of her lucid moments before the cancer destroyed her mind. "If anything ever happens to me, remember, the truth is hidden where the river meets the mountain." Amara had been 16, grieving. She'd assumed it was the morphine talking. Now she wasn't sure. The dining room was on the top floor of a building Amara had never been to before. The car ride over had been silent. Daeung sat across from her, fingers steepled, expression unreadable. Twice, he'd opened his mouth like he wanted to say something. Both times he'd stayed quiet. Now, as they rode the elevator up, he finally spoke. "Whatever happens tonight, don't lie to Chairman Kim." His voice was low, urgent. "If he asks you a question and you don't know the answer, say that. If he asks about your parents and you truly don't remember, tell him. Don't. He'll know, and what he'll do to you will be worse than what you've threatened." Amara cut in bitterly. Daeung's jaw tightened. "Yes." The elevator doors opened. The room was stunning and terrifying in equal measure. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's glittering skyline. A single table, low and traditional, sat in the center. Silk cushions arranged around it. And at the head of the table, sitting with the casual authority of a king, was Chairman Kim. He was smaller than Amara expected. Mid-70s perhaps, with silver hair combed back and eyes that had seen and ordered every form of human cruelty. He wore a simple suit, no tie, and when he smiled at Amara's entrance, it didn't reach those eyes. "Ah," he said in perfect English. His accent barely noticeable. "Adiz's daughter." Not Marcus's daughter. Amara's mother's name. That told her everything about who mattered in this equation. Chairman Kim. Amara bowed the way Madam Park had taught her, low and respectful, holding it for exactly 3 seconds. When she straightened, the old man was studying her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. "You look so much like her," he murmured. "Same eyes, same mouth, even the way you hold your head, that proud tilt." She had that too. "You knew my mother well?" Amara asked carefully, settling onto the cushion Dae-young indicated. "I knew her very well." Chairman Kim's smile was indulgent, almost fond, which somehow made it worse. Adiz was one of my most valuable assets. Smart, fearless, loyal. She could cross borders that no one else could touch, carrying packages that would have gotten anyone else killed. He paused, pouring tea with practiced grace. "Until she met your father, of course. Then loyalty became negotiable." Amara accepted the teacup with both hands, the way she'd been taught. The porcelain was so thin she could see her fingers through it. "My mother died 8 years ago," she said quietly. "Cancer." "I know." Chairman Kim's expression flickered with something that might have been genuine sadness. "I sent flowers to the funeral. Did you receive them?" Amara's blood ran cold. "The white orchids. You remember." He looked pleased. White orchids were her favorite. She used to say they reminded her of home, of Lagos, of the life she'd left behind. Dae-young sat rigid beside Amara. His thigh pressed against hers in what she realized was a warning. "Be careful." "Chairman Kim," Dae-young said smoothly, "perhaps we should discuss the wedding arrangements." "The wedding is handled," the old man interrupted, waving his hand dismissively. "I want to talk to Amara. We have much to catch up on, she and I." "We've never met before," Amara pointed out. "Haven't we?" Chairman Kim's smile widened. "You don't remember visiting Seoul when you were 5 years old? Your mother brought you. You stayed for 3 days, in a house by the river." Amara's breath caught. She did remember. Fragments at least. A beautiful house, paper screens, a garden with a koi pond. Her mother had been nervous the entire time, holding Amara's hand so tight it hurt. "I remember the fish," Amara said slowly. "Golden koi. Hundreds of them." "You fed them," Chairman Kim said. "Every morning. You were fascinated by how they came to the surface when you approached, like they knew you were coming." "Why were we there?" Amara asked, even though part of her didn't want to know the answer. Chairman Kim set down his teacup with deliberate care. "Because your mother was returning something she'd borrowed from me," he said. "Money. A great deal of money. She'd taken it to help your father start his shipping business in Lagos, and she was paying me back. With interest. So she made things right," Amara said. "She paid her debt." "She paid that debt," Chairman Kim corrected. "But there was another debt. One that couldn't be paid in money." The room felt airless suddenly. "What debt?" Amara whispered. Chairman Kim leaned forward. His eyes locked on hers. 29 years ago, your mother was transporting something for me. Package. Very small, very valuable, very dangerous. She was supposed to deliver it to a client in Bangkok. But she never arrived. The package disappeared. Your mother claimed it was stolen, that she'd been robbed, that she barely escaped with her life. He paused, letting the implication settle. "I didn't believe her then. I don't believe it now." "What was in the package?" Dae-young asked, speaking for the first time since they'd sat down. "That's not your concern," Chairman Kim replied without looking at him. His attention remained fixed on Amara. "What matters is that it belonged to me, and your mother took it. She and your father vanished shortly after. Built a new life, a legitimate business, raised a beautiful daughter." His voice hardened. "All with resources that should have been mine." Amara's hands trembled. She set down her teacup before she could drop it. "I don't know anything about a package," she said. "My mother never mentioned it. If she took something from you, she never told me where it is." "Are you certain?" Chairman Kim's voice was soft, dangerous. "Children overhear things, see things. Your mother might have thought you were too young to understand, but the mind remembers, Amara. Even when we think we've forgotten." Amara closed her eyes, trying to think. Her childhood had been normal. Suburban house in Lagos, private school, piano lessons, her mother working as a nurse, her father building his business. Nothing suspicious. Nothing that suggested her parents were former criminals hiding stolen goods. Box. The memory hit her like a physical blow. There was a box, Amara said slowly, eyes still closed. In my mother's closet. Lacquered black, with a dragon painted on the lid. She never let me touch it. Said it was special, from her grandmother. When she opened her eyes, Chairman Kim was leaning forward, every muscle tense. Where is this box now? He asked. I don't know. After she died, my father sold most of her things. Kept some jewelry, some photos. I don't remember seeing the box. Think, Amara. Chairman Kim's voice was sharp now, the grandfatherly facade cracking. This is important. Where would your father have put something he wanted to hide? I don't. Amara stopped. The storage unit. Her father had rented a storage unit after her mother died. Said he couldn't bear to have all her things in the house. Amara had helped him pack boxes, crying the whole time, not paying attention to what went where. There's a storage facility, she said. In Lagos. He kept some of her belongings there. Chairman Kim sat back, satisfaction spreading across his face like oil on water. Good, he said. Very good. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow you'll call your father. You'll tell him you need something from your mother's belongings. Something sentimental. He'll give you the storage unit information, and you'll retrieve the box. And if it's not there, Amara challenged, then we'll look elsewhere. Chairman Kim's smile was sharp. You have 3 months until the wedding, Amara. That's plenty of time to find what I'm looking for. And when you do, when you hand over that box and its contents, your father's debt will truly be paid. Wait, Dae-Jung interrupted. The contract states that the marriage itself settles Marcus Williams' debt. You're changing the terms. I'm clarifying the terms, Chairman Kim corrected. The marriage was always contingent on the return of my property. Did you really think I'd forgive $30 million just to acquire one woman? No matter how beautiful she is. He looked at Amara with something like pity. Your father gambled away money he didn't have, yes. But the real debt, the one that's kept him alive this long, is your mother's theft. Find my property, Amara, and you're all free. Fail, and I'll make sure Kong Dae-Jung makes you an orphan on your wedding night. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Amara felt Dae-Jung go rigid beside her. You would order me to kill her father after the marriage is consummated? Ding asked, his voice carefully neutral. I would order you to kill them both, Chairman Kim replied pleasantly. Father and daughter. Tragedy really. But necessary, if she proves as useless as her parents. Something shifted in Dae-Jung's expression. It was subtle, a tightening around his eyes, a slight tension in his jaw, but Amara felt it like an earthquake. This man who'd threatened her, insulted her, called her trouble and bad decisions wrapped in brown skin, was angry on her behalf. That wasn't our agreement, Dae-Jung said coldly. Our agreement is whatever I say it is, Chairman Kim snapped, the mask finally falling away completely. You exist because I allow it, Kong Dae-Jung. You built your empire on my foundation with my permission using my connections. Don't forget who holds your leash. I haven't forgotten, Dae-Jung replied, but his hand found Amara's under the table, squeezing once. A warning. Or maybe a promise. But adding assassination to a marriage contract seems excessive. Even for you. Only if she fails. Chairman Kim's good humor returned as quickly as it had vanished. I have faith in Amara. She's her mother's daughter after all. Adiz was many things, but she was never stupid. She'll have left clues. Breadcrumbs for her daughter to follow. He stood, signaling the dinner was over. 3 months, he repeated. Find my property, or Dae-Jung puts bullets in both your heads. Simple, clean, efficient. The car ride back was silent for exactly 3 minutes. Then Dae-Jung exploded. That manipulative son of a... He caught himself, jaw working with barely contained fury. I should have known. The contract was too straightforward. Kim never does straightforward. You didn't know about the box. Amara asked quietly. I knew your parents stole something. I didn't know I was signing up to be an executioner. Dae-young's hands were fists on his thighs. 3 months. He's giving us 3 months to find something that's been hidden for 30 years, or he'll force me to. He stopped, looked at her, really looked at her, like he was seeing her as a person for the first time instead of a transaction. I won't do it, he said finally. Won't do what? Kill you. Dae-young's voice was firm. Chairman Kim can order whatever he wants, but I won't put a bullet in you because your parents made mistakes before you were born. That's not justice. That's just cruelty. Amara stared at him, stunned. You threatened to kill my father 3 weeks ago, she pointed out. That's different. How? Because your father deserves it, Dae-young said bluntly. He gambled away money that wasn't his, sold his daughter to pay his debts, and apparently stole from the Kim family. He's earned whatever's coming. He paused, then added quietly, but you haven't. You're just caught in the crossfire of other people's wars. Something warm and unexpected bloomed in Amara's chest. It wasn't forgiveness. Dae-young had still threatened her, still insulted her, still made it clear he saw this marriage as punishment. But it was the first hint of humanity she'd seen beneath the cold exterior. So what do we do? She asked. Dae-young was quiet for a long moment, staring out at Seoul's lights flashing past the car window. We find the box, he said finally. Not for Chairman Kim. For us. Because whatever's inside is valuable enough to trade for our freedom. Yours, mine, maybe even your father's if we play it right. You want to double-cross the Kim family? Amara asked, not sure if she was terrified or impressed. I want leverage, Dae-young corrected. Right now, Kim holds all the cards. He controls the money, the power, the terms of every interaction. But if we find his missing property first, then we have something he wants. And people who want things make mistakes. He turned to look at her directly. Can you remember anything else about the box? Size, weight, what it might contain? Amara closed her eyes, trying to pull up the memory. It was small, she said slowly. Maybe 8 inches square, 3 inches deep. Heavy for its size. And there was something inside that rattled when you moved it. Like stones or marbles or... Her eyes snapped open. Or diamonds. Dae-young's expression sharpened. You think your mother stole diamonds? Chairman Kim said the package was small, valuable, and dangerous. What else fits that description? A lot of things, Dae-young muttered. But diamonds make sense. Especially if they were blood diamonds, or stones being moved illegally through international channels. That's exactly the kind of work your mother would have been doing for the Kim family. The car pulled up to Dae-young's building. But neither of them moved to get out. Tomorrow, Dae-young said, you call your father. Get the storage unit information. I'll arrange travel to Lagos. We'll go together. Together, Amara echoed. You think I'm letting you handle this alone? Dae-young's laugh was sharp. Chairman Kim has people everywhere, Amara. The moment you step foot in Lagos, you'll be watched. Having me with you sends a message. We're not married yet. Doesn't matter. In Kim's eyes, the contract is as good as signed. Dae-young finally opened the car door. Pack light. We leave in 2 days, as soon as I can arrange secure transport. Amara followed him into the building, her mind spinning. 2 days ago, she'd been preparing to marry a man who hated her. In the elevator, Amara asked the question that had been gnawing at her since dinner. Why did you hold my hand? Under the table, when Chairman Kim was threatening us. Dae-young stared straight ahead at the elevator doors. Because, he said quietly, I know what it's like to be alone in a room with monsters. And even though you and I are bound together by contracts and debts and your family's sins. He turned to look at her, and for just a moment, his mask slipped completely. Nobody deserves to face that alone. The elevator doors opened. Dae-young stepped out without another word, leaving Amara standing there with her heart pounding and her mind full of questions she couldn't answer. When exactly had Kang Dae-young stopped being her enemy and started being something else entirely? But what Amara didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the box her mother had hidden wasn't just filled with diamonds. It contained something far more dangerous. List of names. Politicians, police chiefs, judges, everyone the Kim family had ever corrupted or controlled over the past 40 years. And the moment Amara opened that box, she'd paint a target on both their backs that no amount of diamonds could erase. The heat hit Amara like a physical force the moment they stepped off the private jet. She'd forgotten this. The thick, humid air that clung to your skin. The smell of ocean mixed with exhaust and street food. The chaos of a city that never quite decided if it wanted to be modern or traditional, so it chose both and collided them together with spectacular violence. Boom. Except it didn't feel like home anymore. Stay close, Ding murmured, his hand finding the small of her back as they descended the stairs. Not possessive but protective. 3 SUVs waited on the tarmac, all black, all with tinted windows that screamed organized crime in a way that made Amara's stomach turn. Is all this really necessary? She asked. Chairman Kim has people in Lagos, Dae-young replied. Do I? The question is, which ones will we run into first? That wasn't reassuring. The drive to the storage facility took 90 minutes through Lagos traffic, which meant sitting still for long stretches while motorcycles, Okadas, weaved between cars with suicidal confidence, and street vendors tapped on windows trying to sell everything from phone chargers to roasted plantains. Dae-young watched it all with barely concealed fascination. You've never been to Africa, Amara realized. No. His eyes tracked a man carrying what appeared to be an entire furniture set on his head. Chairman Kim's business interests are primarily in Asia and Eastern Europe. This is different. That's one word for it, Amara said, feeling an unexpected surge of pride. For all its chaos, Lagos was hers in a way Seoul would never be. My mother used to say Lagos doesn't follow rules. It invents its own and changes them every 5 minutes. Dae-young looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. What? Amara asked. You smiled, he said. That's the first time I've seen you smile since we met. She hadn't realized. But he was right. Talking about Lagos, about her mother, had momentarily broken through the fear and anger that had become her default emotions. Don't get used to it, she said, but there was no heat in the words. Wouldn't dream of it, Dae-young replied, but the corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile of his own. The moment stretched between them, fragile and unexpected. Then his phone buzzed and the spell broke. Dae-young's expression hardened as he read the message. What is it? Amara asked. We're being followed. He didn't look up from his phone. 2 cars. They picked us up at the airport. Amara's pulse spiked. Kim's people. Unknown. My security is running the plates now. Ding typed rapidly, then looked at the driver. Take the next exit. Double back through Lekki. I want to see if they follow or peel off. The driver nodded, already signaling. Amara twisted in her seat, trying to spot the tail through the tinted rear window. Don't, Dae-young said sharply. They'll know we've spotted them. Just sit normally. Normally. Amara's voice pitched higher than she intended. We're being followed by people who might want to kill us, and you want me to sit normally? Yes. Dae-young's hand found hers, squeezing once. Trust me. I've done this before. That should have been alarming. Somehow, it was comforting instead. The next 20 minutes were a masterclass in evasive driving through one of the world's most congested cities. Their driver, a Lagos native thankfully, navigated narrow streets with the confidence of someone who'd learned to drive by playing Grand Theft Auto in real life. They doubled back, took random turns, even drove the wrong way down a one-way street for 50 terrifying meters. The 2 cars stayed with them the entire time. They're professionals, Dae-young said quietly, his jaw tight. Not just muscle. Someone trained them. What do we do? Before he could answer, his phone rang. He answered in rapid Korean, his tone clipped and authoritative. Amara caught enough to understand. His people had identified the tail. When he hung up, his expression was grim. They're not Kim's people, he said. That's good, right? They're your father's. The world tilted. What? Amara breathed. The cars are registered to one of your father's shell companies. The men inside are private security he's used before. Dae-young was watching her carefully now, like she might shatter. He knows we're here, Amara. And he's having us followed. That doesn't make sense. Amara's mind raced. Why would he? Because he knows what we're looking for, Dae-young interrupted. And he doesn't want us to find it. The implications crashed over Amara like a wave. Her father had known. All along he'd known about the box, about what her mother had stolen, about the real reason the Kim family wanted Amara married off. And he'd said nothing. Just signed the contract and sold her anyway. Pull over, Amara said suddenly. What? Dae-young looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Pull over. Now. Her voice was steel. If those are my father's people, then I'm going to talk to them. Amara, that's insane. He sold me. The words exploded out of her. He sold me to pay debts he created, for crimes he committed with my mother, and he never once told me the truth. So yes, I'm going to walk back to that car and I'm going to ask him, through his hired thugs, why he's having us followed instead of just telling me where the goddamn box is. Dae-young stared at her for 3 long seconds. Then he told the driver to pull over. The moment their SUV stopped, Amara was out, ignoring Dae-young's shout of protest. The 2 following cars had no choice but to stop too. They were on a quiet street in Lekki. Palm trees lined the road, and somewhere in the distance, she could hear the ocean. Amara marched toward the first car. Doors opened. 4 men emerged, all large, all armed with visible shoulder holsters. Behind her, she heard Dae-young's people scrambling to follow, weapons drawn. Call him, Amara demanded, pointing at the closest man. Call my father. Right now. The man, early 40s, scarred knuckles, the look of someone who'd done bad things for good money, hesitated. Ma'am, we're just supposed to observe. I don't care what you're supposed to do. Amara stepped closer, and to his credit, the man didn't back down. You're on Marcus Williams' payroll, which means you have his number. So call him, put him on speaker, and let me talk to the man who's been lying to me my entire life. The man looked past her to Dae-young, who had emerged from the SUV looking simultaneously furious and impressed. Dae-young shrugged. You heard the lady. Make the call. 60 seconds later, Marcus Williams' voice crackled through the phone speaker. Amara. He sounded tired. Well, baby girl, I can explain. Don't call me that, Amara cut in, her voice shaking with barely contained rage. You lost the right to call me that when you signed me away like property. Where's the box, Dad? Mom's black lacquered box with the dragon on it. Where is it? How do you know about that? Because Chairman Kim told me everything. Amara's laugh was bitter. About Mom working for him. About you both stealing from him. About the package Mom was supposed to deliver but never did. He told me things you should have told me yourself before you sold me to the Korean Mafia. I was protecting you, Marcus said, his voice breaking. If you didn't know, they couldn't hurt you. They couldn't use you to. They're using me anyway. Amara screamed. I have 3 months to find whatever Mom stole, or Chairman Kim is going to have Dae-young kill both of us. So protecting me. You failed. Spectacularly. Another long silence. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. The box isn't in the storage unit. Amara's heart sank. Where is it? I don't know. Dad. I'm serious, Amara. I don't know. Your mother hid it somewhere before she got sick. She said she'd tell me where when the time was right, but then the cancer spread so fast, and by the time we knew she wasn't going to make it, she couldn't remember. The morphine, the confusion. His voice cracked. She kept saying something about a river and a mountain, but she was delirious. I thought it was just the drugs talking. Amara's breath caught. The truth is hidden where the river meets the mountain. Her mother's last words to her. Words she dismissed as morphine-induced nonsense. She told me too, Amara whispered. Right before she died. The truth is hidden where the river meets the mountain. I thought she was just confused. She wasn't, Marcus said urgently. Amara, your mother was brilliant. Even dying, even out of her mind with pain, she was trying to tell you something. You have to figure out what she meant. Dae-young was suddenly at Amara's side. His hand on her shoulder. Where in Lagos does a river meet a mountain? He asked, speaking directly into the phone. Lagos doesn't have mountains, Marcus replied. It's coastal, flat. The only elevated areas are man-made. Then it's not literal, Dae-young said. It's a metaphor, or a code. Amara, did your mother speak any other languages besides English and Igbo? Korean, Amara said slowly. She learned Korean when she worked for Chairman Kim. She used to sing to me in Korean sometimes when I was little. Something clicked in her mind. Wait, there's a Korean restaurant in Victoria Island. My mother took me there once when I was maybe 7 or 8. She loved it, said it reminded her of Seoul. What was it called? She closed her eyes, reaching for the memory. Sancheon, she said suddenly. It means mountain river. In Korean, Mom said the name was poetry, that it represented balance between earth and water. Dae-young's grip on her shoulder tightened. Where the river meets the mountain. It's on Akin-Adesala Street, Marcus said through the phone, excitement bleeding into his voice. Near the water. Your mother was friends with the owner, a Korean woman named Mrs. Lee. Amara, if your mother trusted anyone in Lagos outside our family, it was her. Then that's where we're going, Dae-young said decisively. Wait, Marcus interjected. If I figured this out, Kim's people might too. You need to be careful. If they get there first. They won't, Dae-young said coldly. Because unlike you, I know how to protect what's mine. He ended the call and handed the phone back to the security guard. Tell Marcus Williams that if he sends any more tales, I'll consider it hostile action and respond accordingly, Dae-young said. Then to Amara. Let's go. We're running out of time. Back in the SUV, Amara was shaking. Not from fear. From adrenaline, from anger. From the sheer surreal nature of confronting her father through hired security while standing on a Lagos street corner with a Korean Mafia boss. You okay? Ding asked quietly. No, Amara said honestly. But I will be. After we find this box and I figure out what to do with the rest of my life. You mean our lives, Dae-young corrected. We're in this together now. For better or worse. We're not married yet. Doesn't matter. He was looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. You stood up to those men. You demanded answers. You took control of a situation that should have terrified you. It did terrify me, Amara admitted. I know. Ding's voice was soft. That's what makes you brave. You did it anyway. Something warm unfurled in Amara's chest. Don't go getting soft on me, Kang Dae-young, she said, trying to keep her tone light. You're supposed to hate me, remember? I'm trouble wrapped in brown skin and bad decisions. Dae-young was quiet for a long moment. I was wrong. Amara's head snapped toward him. What? When I said that, I was wrong. He wasn't looking at her, instead staring out at Lagos traffic. You're not trouble. You're not your father's mistakes or your mother's crimes. You're just a woman who got dealt an impossible hand and is playing it better than most people would. Amara didn't know what to say. And for what it's worth, Dae-young continued, I don't hate you. I don't think I ever really did. I hated the situation, the loss of control, being ordered to marry someone I didn't choose. He paused. But you're becoming the one good thing in this entire mess. Dae-young, don't. He finally looked at her, and his eyes were intense. Don't say anything. Not yet. We have a job to do. After we find the box, after we figure out how to survive Chairman Kim, after we decide if this marriage is going to be real or just a contract. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear with unexpected gentleness. Then we'll talk. About us. About what this is becoming. The restaurant was smaller than Amara remembered. Squeezed between a clothing boutique and a pharmacy on a busy Victoria Island street, Sancheon looked almost shabby in the harsh afternoon light. The sign was faded, the windows dusty. But it was open. Let me do the talking, Amara said as they approached. Mrs. Lee knew my mother. If we go in aggressive, she'll shut down. Dae-young nodded, positioning himself slightly behind her. Protective but not threatening. The interior was cool, dim, and smelled like ginger and sesame oil. Traditional Korean music played softly through hidden speakers. The lunch rush was over. Only 2 tables were occupied. Behind the counter, a Korean woman in her 60s looked up from a newspaper. Her expression went through several rapid transformations. Curiosity, recognition, shock, and finally something that looked like fear. "Amara," she breathed in accented English. "Little Amara." "Hi, Mrs. Lee," Amara said softly. "I need to talk to you about my mother." Mrs. Lee's eyes darted to Dae-young, taking in his expensive suit. His bearing, the barely concealed danger radiating off him. "Who is he?" she asked in Korean. "My fiancé," Amara replied in the same language, her pronunciation rough but understandable. "He's helping me." "Helping you with what?" "Finding something my mother left with you," Amara said. "A black box. Lacquered, with a dragon painted on it." The color drained from Mrs. Lee's face. "You need to leave," she said urgently, switching to English and moving toward them. "Both of you. Right now. That box, it's dangerous. Your mother made me promise to never give it to anyone unless..." "Unless what?" Ding asked, his voice gentle despite the tension radiating through his body. Mrs. Lee looked at Amara, tears welling in her eyes. "Unless you came asking for it yourself." In Korean. Using the phrase she taught you. Amara's mind raced. A phrase in Korean. Her mother had taught her songs, simple words, but there was something. A phrase her mother used to say every night when tucking her in. Amara had always thought it was just a good night blessing. She took a breath and spoke in careful Korean. "Han gang yul jianio san yul niamio." Cross the river, over the mountain. Mrs. Lee's tears spilled over. "She said you'd remember," she whispered. Come quickly. Before anyone sees." Mrs. Lee led them through the kitchen, past startled cooks who wisely said nothing, to a small office in the back. She knelt by a floor safe hidden under a desk, her hands shaking as she worked the combination. "Your mother brought this to me 8 years ago," Mrs. Lee said, not looking at them. "A week before she died. She was so thin, so sick, but she was determined. She said if anyone came looking for it, the Kim family, your father, anyone, I should say I didn't know what they were talking about." The safe clicked open. Mrs. Lee reached inside and pulled out the box. It was exactly as Amara remembered. Black lacquer, dragon painted in gold and red, beautiful and ominous. "But she said if you came," Mrs. Lee continued, placing the box in Amara's trembling hands, "and if you spoke the phrase in Korean, then I should give it to you and tell you something." "What?" Amara whispered. Mrs. Lee looked up at her with devastating sadness. She said, "Tell my daughter that sometimes the only way to win the game is to change the rules. And that I'm sorry I couldn't be there to help her do it." The hotel room was supposed to be safe. 5-star. Top floor. Security Dae-young trusted with his life. But as Amara sat on the bed with a black lacquered box in her lap, she understood that safety was an illusion. Had always been an illusion. Whatever was inside this box had gotten her mother killed. And it would probably kill them too. "You don't have to open it," Dae-young said quietly. He stood by the window, watching the Lagos skyline. "We could take it to Chairman Kim unopened. Let him deal with whatever's inside. And trust that he'll honor his word." Amara's laugh was hollow. "The man who threatened to have you kill me and my father. That Chairman Kim. Fair point." Ding turned from the window. "But once we open that box, once we see what's inside, we can't unknow it. And knowledge is the most dangerous weapon in the Kim family's world." Amara looked down at the dragon painted on the lid. In the soft hotel lighting, it seemed to move, writhing across the lacquer like it was alive. "My mother died protecting this," she said softly. "Whatever's inside was important enough that she hid it, lied about it, kept it secret even when the cancer was eating her alive. I owe it to her too." Her hands were steady as she lifted the lid. Inside, nestled in red silk that had faded with age, were 3 things. A velvet pouch that clinked when she moved it. Diamonds, probably. Enough to be valuable but not enough to justify 30 years of hiding. Photograph. Yellowed, cracked at the edges. Her mother, much younger, standing next to a Korean man Amara didn't recognize. They were both smiling in front of what looked like a government building. And a USB drive. Small, black, ordinary. The kind you could buy at any electronics store. The most dangerous thing was always the most mundane. That's it. Ding moved closer, peering into the box. That's what all this was about. Amara picked up the photograph, studying it carefully. Her mother looked happy. Really. Genuinely happy in a way Amara rarely remembered seeing. Who's the man? She wondered aloud. Ding took the photo, and his expression shifted. That's Kim Min-soo, he said quietly. Chairman Kim's younger brother. I didn't know he had a brother. He doesn't. Not anymore. Ding's voice was careful. Min-soo died 27 years ago. Officially it was a car accident. Unofficially. He trailed off. What? Amara pressed. There were rumors, Dae-young said slowly. That it wasn't an accident. That someone in the family ordered the hit because Min-soo was getting too ambitious, too powerful. That he was planning to break away from the Kim syndicate and start his own operation. He looked at the photo again, then at Amara. And there were other rumors. That he was in love with someone outside the organization. Someone his brother didn't approve of. The implications hit Amara like a freight train. My mother, she whispered. Jung nodded. If your mother and Min-soo were involved, if Chairman Kim found out and had his own brother killed because of it, then your mother stealing from him wasn't just theft. It was revenge. Amara's mind raced. Everything clicked into place with horrible clarity. The package her mother was supposed to deliver but never did. The way Chairman Kim had looked at Amara with that strange mixture of hatred and fascination. The insistence that she specifically marry into the organization. He sees his brother when he looks at me, Amara said, her voice hollow. That's why he wants me close. Not just because my mother stole from him, but because I'm a reminder of what he destroyed. Dae-young picked up the USB drive, turning it over in his fingers. There's only one way to know what's really on this, he said. And once we plug it in, we're committed. No going back. Then let's not go back. Amara's voice was steel. My mother spent 30 years running from these people. I'm done running. I want to know what she thought was important enough to die for. Dae-young pulled out his laptop. A custom-built machine with security features Amara couldn't begin to understand, and powered it up. This is air-gapped, he explained. Not connected to any network. If there's malware on that drive, it can't spread. And if what we find is problematic, we can destroy the evidence before anyone knows we saw it. He plugged in the drive. For 10 seconds nothing happened. Then files started populating the screen. Hundreds of them. Documents, spreadsheets, photographs, audio recordings. Dae-young opened the first document at random. His expression went from curious to shocked to absolutely terrified in under 30 seconds. Oh, he breathed. Oh, this is so much worse than I thought. Amara leaned over his shoulder, reading. The document was a ledger. Names, dates, amounts. But these weren't normal transactions. They were bribes. Payments to politicians, police chiefs, judges, military officials. Not just in South Korea but across Asia, Africa, Europe. A spider web of corruption stretching back 40 years. And every single payment was documented. With receipts, photographs, audio recordings of the transactions taking place. This is leverage, Amara whispered. My mother didn't just steal diamonds. She stole Chairman Kim's insurance policy. The thing that keeps everyone in line. It's more than that. Dae-young clicked through more files. His face growing paler by the second. These aren't just payments. Look at the dates. These transactions correspond to major political events. Elections. Coups. Assassinations. He pulled up a photo dated 1997. A government official Amara didn't recognize, shaking hands with Chairman Kim. The caption beneath read, Philippine Finance Minister, 3 weeks before assassination. Payment. $2.3 million USD. My God, Amara breathed. This is evidence of dozens of murders. Political interference in multiple countries. If this got out, it would destroy the Kim family, Dae-young finished. Every corrupt official they've ever paid would turn on them to save themselves. Every government they've infiltrated would come after them. They'd be finished. Ding's phone buzzed, then buzzed again, then started ringing insistently. He answered, spoke rapid Korean, then went absolutely still. "We need to leave," he said, already closing the laptop and pocketing the USB drive. "Right now." "What's happening?" "Someone tracked us. I don't know how, but there are two teams converging on this hotel. One is Chairman Kim's people. The other—" He paused, listening to whoever was on the phone. "The other is Nigerian state security. Someone tipped them off that foreign nationals are in Lagos carrying sensitive intelligence materials." Amara's stomach dropped. "My father. Maybe. Or Kim's people trying to flush us out. Either way, we have about 5 minutes before this hotel room becomes a war zone." They moved fast. Daeung had a go bag already packed. Professional paranoia paying off. He threw in the laptop, the box with its contents, and grabbed Amara's hand. "Service stairs," he said. "We go down 2 floors, cut through the kitchen level, then take the parking garage to the secondary exit. My people will have a car waiting. What if they're watching all the exits? Then we improvise." Daeung's smile was sharp, dangerous. "I'm very good at improvising." They made it to the stairwell without incident. Then they heard voices above them. Korean. Rapid. Professional. Kim's people were already in the building. "Down," Daeung hissed. "Fast and quiet." They descended 3 flights before they heard voices below them too. Different accent. Nigerian. Security services doing a sweep. They were trapped between 2 forces, neither of which would let them walk away. "5th floor," Amara said suddenly. "There's a pool area. I saw it on the hotel map. It connects to the adjacent building. They share the recreational facilities." Daeung stared at her. "You memorized the layout." "My mother taught me to always know the exits." Amara was already moving. "Come on." Before they tighten the net. They burst through the 5th floor access door into a corridor lined with fake plants and expensive art. Behind them, they heard the stairwell door slam open. Shouts in Korean. Ahead, the pool area beckoned. All glass and chrome and the smell of chlorine. "There," Daeung pointed. A service bridge connected this building to the next. Ostensibly for staff, but right now it was their only option. They ran. They were halfway across the bridge when a figure stepped out of the shadows ahead. Amara's heart stopped. It was Min Jae, Daeung's second in command. "Sir," he said calmly, like they weren't in the middle of a high-stakes chase. "Chairman Kim knows about the drive. He's offering a deal." "How did you?" Daeung started. "I've been tracking your phone since you left Seoul," Min Jae interrupted. "Standard protocol for your safety. But someone else is tracking it too. Someone with resources equal to ours." "Who?" Amara demanded. Min Jae's expression was grave. "I don't know. But they're moving fast, and they're not interested in taking prisoners. Whatever's on that drive, it's bigger than the Kim family. International intelligence agencies are involved now." Ding's jaw tightened. "What's the deal?" "Chairman Kim will guarantee your safety and Amara's father's life in exchange for the drive. Uncopied. Unviewed beyond what you've already seen. He'll dissolve the marriage contract, release you from his service, and you both walk away clean." It was everything they needed. Freedom. Safety. Their lives back. All they had to do was hand over the evidence that could finally stop Chairman Kim's corruption. "No," Amara said. Both men looked at her. "No," Min Jae echoed. "My mother died protecting this information," Amara said, her voice shaking but firm. "She spent 30 years making sure it stayed hidden from Kim. I'm not going to hand it back to him so he can destroy it and continue ruining lives." "Amara," Daeung started. "No," she repeated. "You said it yourself. This evidence could bring down the entire organization. Every corrupt official, every politician they've bought, every murder they've committed. For once, they'd face actual consequences. And we'd face actual death," Daeung pointed out. "You understand that, right? If we don't give Kim this drive, we become targets for the rest of our lives. No safe place, no peace. Just running until they catch us. Amara looked at him, really looked at him. This man who'd threatened her, insulted her, called her trouble. Who'd slowly become something else, a partner maybe. Or at least someone she could trust in a world where trust was currency. What do you want to do? She asked quietly. Deung was silent for a long moment. Behind them, the voices in the stairwell were getting closer. I've spent 7 years serving Chairman Kim, he said finally. Doing terrible things because I had no choice. Building an empire on his foundation, with his permission, using his connections. He looked down at the laptop bag containing the drive. And I'm tired. Tired of being owned. Tired of watching him destroy people because he can. He looked up at Amara, and his eyes were clear. But if we do this, if we weaponize this information, there's no going back. We'll be declaring war on one of the most powerful criminal organizations in Asia. They'll never stop hunting us. I know, Amara said. We might not survive. I know that too. Ding studied her face, searching for something. Then he smiled. Actually smiled, it was warm and genuine and a little bit crazy. Your mother would have liked you, he said. The way you stood up to those security guards. The way you're standing up to me now. She raised a fighter. Is that a yes? Amara asked. Instead of answering, Daeyoung turned to Min-jae. Tell Chairman Kim I have a counteroffer, he said. He leaves Amara and her father alone. Completely. No retaliation, no revenge, no sending people to tie up loose ends 5 years from now. And in exchange, Min-jae asked carefully. In exchange, I don't release this information to every intelligence agency, news outlet, and investigative journalist in the world. Stays contained. My leverage against him, his leverage against me. Mutually assured destruction. He won't agree to that. He will, Daeyoung said confidently. Because right now he's not sure if I've already made copies. And he's right to be unsure. The moment we leave this building, this drive gets uploaded to 3 separate secure servers with deadman switches. If anything happens to us, it all goes public. Min-jae's expression was unreadable. You're bluffing. Am I? Daeyoung's smile was razor sharp. Do you want to bet Chairman Kim's entire empire on that assumption? Min-jae looked at Daeyoung for a long moment. Then he sighed. I've been working for you for 6 years, sir. In that time you've never lied to me. Not once. So I'm going to ask you directly. Have you made copies of that drive? Not yet, Daeyoung admitted. But I will. The moment we're secure. And if I take it from you by force. Min-jae's hand moved toward his jacket, where Amara knew he kept a gun. Then you'll have to kill us both, Daeyoung said calmly. Because neither of us is giving it up without a fight. And you'll have to live with knowing you murdered the woman I'm falling in love with. The words hung in the air like a gunshot. Amara's breath caught. Falling in love with. Daeyoung hadn't looked at her when he said it. Kept his eyes on Min-jae, poker-faced and calm. But his hand found hers, squeezing tight. Min-jae's expression cycled through surprise, resignation, and something that might have been approval. You're insane, he said finally. Both of you. You're going to get yourselves killed. Probably, Daeyoung agreed. But we'll die free. That's more than most people in our world can say. Min-jae was quiet for 3 seconds that felt like hours. Then he stepped aside. The northeast stairwell is clear for the next 4 minutes, he said. After that, I can't guarantee anything. There's a car in the underground garage, space 47. Keys under the driver's side mat. It'll get you to the airport. You're letting us go? Amara asked, not quite believing it. I'm buying you time, Min-jae corrected. What you do with it is your problem. But sir. He looked at Daeyoung seriously. Chairman Kim won't accept your terms. You know that. He'll agree, then send assassins the moment he thinks you've let your guard down. I know, Daeyoung said. Which is why we're not staying anywhere he can find us. They ran. Down the northeast stairwell, past startled hotel guests, through the underground parking garage that smelled like exhaust and concrete. Space 47 held a nondescript Toyota, the kind that blended into Lagos traffic perfectly. Keys exactly where Min-jae said they'd be. Daeyoung drove. He was good at it, Amara realized. Confident but not reckless, navigating Lagos's chaotic streets like he'd been doing it his whole life instead of for 2 days. Where are we going? Amara asked as they merged onto a highway. Airport. There's a private airfield in Ikeja. I have a plane standing by. And then we disappear. Dae-young's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. We upload the files to those Deadman servers I mentioned. We make sure everyone knows that if we die, Chairman Kim's empire dies with us. Then we find somewhere safe and figure out what comes next. There is no safe, Amara said quietly. Not anymore. Not for us. Dae-young glanced at her, and his expression softened. I meant what I said back there, he said. About falling in love with you. Amara's heart stuttered. You were bluffing. Trying to make Min-jae sympathetic. I was stating a fact. Dae-young's voice was steady. I've been falling for you since you stood in my office and called me a monster. Since you confronted those security guards instead of cowering. Since you decided that doing the right thing was more important than staying alive. He reached over, taking her hand without looking away from the road. You're everything I didn't know I was looking for, Amara Williams. And if we're going to spend the rest of our lives running from Chairman Kim, fighting his organization, trying to survive in a world that wants us dead. He finally looked at her, and his eyes were full of something raw and honest. Then I can't think of anyone I'd rather run with. Amara's eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. I hated you, she whispered. When I first arrived in Seoul, when you said those things, threatened my father, looked at me like I was garbage. I hated you so much. I know. But somewhere between Lagos and here, between that dinner with Chairman Kim and opening my mother's box, between all the running and fighting and barely surviving, she squeezed his hand hard. I stopped hating you, and started seeing who you really are underneath all the armor. And who is that? Jung asked. Someone who's been trapped his whole life, just like me. Someone who wants to be good but doesn't know how because the world never taught him. Someone who's brave enough to fight impossible odds just because it's the right thing to do. She leaned over, kissing his cheek softly. Someone I could love, she finished. If we survive long enough. Dae-young's jaw tightened with emotion. We'll survive, he said fiercely. I promise you, Amara. We'll survive this. And when we do, when Chairman Kim is no longer a threat, when we're finally free. Then what? She asked. Then I'll marry you, Dae-young said. Not because a contract says I have to. Not because it settles a debt. But because I choose you. And you choose me. And we build something real out of all this chaos. They were 10 minutes from the airfield when Dae-young's phone rang. He answered it on speaker. Chairman Kim's voice filled the car, smooth and deadly. Dae-young, he said. I'm disappointed. I offer you freedom, and you respond with threats. Not threats, Dae-young corrected. Terms. There's a difference. Let me offer you different terms, Chairman Kim said. Give me the drive and I'll kill you quickly. Keep it, and I'll make sure Amara watches you die slowly before I put her in a room with men who'll teach her what happens to women who defy me. Amara's blood ran cold. But Dae-young just laughed. You're too late, Chairman. The files are already uploaded. 3 separate servers. 3 separate Deadman switches. If our hearts stop, if we don't check in every 12 hours, if we so much as miss a single update. He paused for effect. The whole world learns what the Kim family really is. Silence on the line. You're bluffing. Test me, Dae-young invited. Send your assassins. Put bullets in us. See what happens to your empire when 40 years of corruption gets released to the international media. Another long silence. This isn't over, Chairman Kim said finally. No, Dae-young agreed. But it's no longer your game. Welcome to mine. He hung up. They made it to the plane. They escaped Lagos. But as they flew over the Atlantic, heading toward a safe house in Brazil that Dae-young had set up years ago for exactly this kind of emergency, neither of them noticed the tracking device hidden in the laptop bag, or the kill team that was already boarding a plane to follow them, because Chairman Kim had one final card to play, one that would force Dae-young to make an impossible choice. Save Amara's life or destroy the Kim family forever. He couldn't do both. Sao Paulo, Brazil. 72 hours after Lagos. The safe house was in Pinheiros, an upscale neighborhood where no one asked questions if you paid enough. 3 bedrooms. Reinforced doors. Security cameras. De Jong had installed himself 2 years ago when he'd started planning his eventual escape from Chairman Kim. He'd never imagined he wouldn't be alone when he used it. Amara stood on the balcony, watching Sao Paulo's lights flicker to life as dusk settled over the city. Behind her, through the glass doors, she could see De Jong at the dining table, 3 laptops open, confirming that the dead man's switches were active and functional. They'd survived Lagos. They'd escaped Chairman Kim's immediate reach. But survival didn't feel like victory. Felt like borrowed time. "You should eat something," De Jong called out in English. His Korean accent had grown more pronounced with stress. "There's food in the kitchen." "I'm not hungry," Amara replied, not turning around. She heard him stand, felt his presence before he touched her. His arms wrapped around her waist from behind, chin resting on her shoulder. "We're going to be okay," he murmured against her neck. "The files are secure. Kim can't touch us without destroying everything he's built." "Then why doesn't it feel like we've won?" Amara asked quietly. De Jong turned her around to face him. In the fading light, he looked younger somehow, less dangerous, more human. "Because we haven't won yet," he admitted. "We've just reached a stalemate. Kim is powerful, but he's not stupid. He'll wait. Look for an opening. And the moment we make a mistake." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. "So what do we do?" Amara asked. "Spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders. Never staying in one place too long. Never trusting anyone." "No." De Jong's hands came up to cup her face, thumbs stroking her cheekbones with devastating gentleness. "We live. Really live. We don't just survive, we build something. Maybe we stay here in Brazil. Maybe we go somewhere else. But we make a life together that's worth protecting. And my father." The question had been gnawing at Amara since they'd left Lagos. Kim could still go after him. "Your father is under protection. My people in Lagos are watching him 24/7. If Kim makes a move, we'll know." De Jong leaned his forehead against hers. "I promised you we'd survive this. I'm keeping that promise." Amara didn't know who moved first. Maybe it was her, rising on her toes. Maybe it was him, closing the distance. Maybe it was both of them, finally giving in to the tension that had been building since the moment she'd walked into his Seoul office. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, testing. Then it deepened. De Jong's hands slid into her hair, angling her head for better access. Amara's fingers gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, needing to feel something real after days of fear and running. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, De Jong rested his forehead against hers again. "I love you," he said simply. "I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I love you, Amara Williams. And when this is over, when we're truly safe, I'm going to marry you properly. No contracts, no debts. Just you and me and a future we choose." "I love you too," Amara whispered, and meant it with her entire soul. De Jong's phone buzzed. Then his laptop alarm started screaming. He was across the room in seconds, fingers flying over the keyboard. "What is it?" Amara demanded, fear spiking through her post-kiss euphoria. "Security breach." His voice was deadly calm. "Someone just disabled the cameras on the ground floor. Kim's people. Probably." De Jong was already moving, pulling weapons from hidden caches around the apartment. He tossed Amara a handgun. "You know how to use this." "My mother taught me," Amara said, checking the chamber with practiced efficiency. "What's the play?" "Roof access. There's a helicopter pad 2 buildings over. We jump the gap, get to the chopper, disappear again." He grabbed the laptop bag with the drive. "Same as Lagos. We survive." They made it to the hallway before the power died. Emergency lights kicked in, bathing everything in sickly red. Below them, Amara heard footsteps. Multiple sets. Professional. Coordinated. "How many?" she whispered. De Jong was listening intently. "At least 6. Maybe 8. Alarmed. They're sweeping floor by floor." We're on the 7th floor, which gives us about 4 minutes. He grabbed her hand. Roof. Now. They ran up the service stairs, taking them 2 at a time. Behind them, the footsteps grew closer. The roof access door was locked. Dean cursed in Korean, shooting the lock twice. The sound was deafening in the enclosed stairwell. The door burst open. They stumbled onto the roof, Sao Paulo's lights spreading out before them like scattered jewels. The neighboring building was 15 feet away. The helicopter pad visible on its roof. We have to jump, Dae-young said. That's insane, Amara replied. It's survival. He squeezed her hand. I'll go first. When I make it, you follow. Don't think. Don't hesitate. Just run and jump. Dae-young backed up, getting a running start. Then he charged. For a moment, he was airborne, suspended between buildings, between life and death, and Amara's heart stopped. He landed hard, rolling to absorb the impact, then scrambled to his feet. Your turn, he shouted. Come on. Amara backed up, preparing to jump. The roof access door slammed open behind her. Don't move, a voice said in Korean. Well, professional. Amara turned slowly. 5 men stood in the doorway, all armed, all pointing weapons at her. And in front of them, looking like he'd aged a decade in 3 days, was Min-jae. I'm sorry, sir, Min-jae called out to Dae-young. I tried to give you time. But Chairman Kim has my family, my wife, my children. He said if I don't bring him the drive and the girl. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Across the gap, Dae-young's expression crumbled into devastation. Min-jae, he said. Brother, don't do this. I don't have a choice, Min-jae replied, voice breaking. You of all people should understand. Family comes first. Always. One of the armed men stepped forward, grabbing Amara's arm roughly. She could have fought. Could have used the gun Dae-young had given her. But there were 5 of them and 1 of her. And all it would accomplish was getting herself killed. So she let them take her. Here's what's going to happen, Min-jae called across the gap. You're going to throw me the laptop bag with the drive. Then you're going to delete all the files from your secure servers. All 3 of them. We'll watch you do it remotely. And if I don't? Ding asked, though they both knew the answer. Then Chairman Kim will do to Amara what he wanted to do in Lagos. Loli. And he'll make sure you hear every scream. Min-jae's voice was hollow. Please, sir. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Give us the drive. Destroy the files. He'll let her live. He gave me his word. His word is worthless, Dae-young spat. It's all we have, Min-jae replied. Amara watched Dae-young across the gap. Saw the calculation in his eyes. The impossible mathematics of love versus justice, personal versus principle. If he gave up the drive, Chairman Kim walked free. 40 years of corruption, murder, and manipulation would continue. Everyone the Kim family had hurt was hurting, would hurt in the future. All that suffering would be on Dae-young's conscience. But if he didn't, Amara died. She could see him weighing it. See the agony in every line of his body. And she made the decision for him. Don't do it, she shouted across the gap. Dae-young, don't you dare give them that drive. Everything we've done, everything my mother died for. Don't let it be for nothing. Amara. I mean it. Tears streamed down her face now. You told me your mother would be proud of me for fighting. For standing up. Well, I'm standing up now. I'm telling you, let the files upload. Let the world see what Chairman Kim really is. Even if it costs my life. Dae-young stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something Amara didn't expect. He smiled. Not a happy smile. A sad, proud, utterly devastated smile. You're the bravest person I've ever met, he called across the gap. And I love you more than I thought I could love anything. He pulled out his phone. Amara's heart soared. He was going to do it. He was going to let the files upload, damn the consequences. I'm deleting the files, Dae-young said. What? No. Amara struggled against her captor. Dae-young, you can't. Everything we've worked for means nothing if you're not alive to share it with me, Dae-young finished. His fingers moved over his phone screen. I thought I wanted justice. I thought taking down Chairman Kim was worth any price. But I was wrong. He looked up at her, and his eyes were full of tears. You're the only thing that matters. Not revenge. Not justice. Not making the world better. Just you. Life. With me. Sir, don't. Min-jae started. Server 1 deleted. Dae-young announced. Verifying now. One of the armed men had a tablet. He checked it, then nodded to Min-jae. It's true, Min-jae said quietly. First server is clean. Deleting server 2. Dae-young continued. Amara felt something break inside her chest. He was giving up everything. Their leverage. Their safety. The evidence that could have changed the world. All for her. Wait, one of the armed men said suddenly. Something's wrong. He was staring at his tablet, frowning. What? Min-jae demanded. There's a fourth server. Just went active. And it's uploading the files to... Oh God. It's uploading to every major news outlet in South Korea, Japan, the Philippines. The upload is already 40% complete. Min-jae's head snapped toward Dae-young. You lied, he said. You said there were only 3 servers. I did lie, Dae-young agreed. And now his smile was sharp. Dangerous. The 3 servers I'm deleting. They're decoys. Dummy files mixed with enough real data to look legitimate. But the 4th server, the one that's uploading right now, that's the real archive. Everything her mother stole from Chairman Kim. Every murder. Every bribe. Every corrupt official. He held up his phone, showing the upload progress. 62%. And you can't stop it, Dae-young continued. Because it's on a timer. The deletion of those 3 servers triggered the upload. Even if you kill me right now, even if you destroy my phone, it'll keep going until it's complete. You son of a bitch, Min-jae breathed. I learned from the best, Dae-young replied. Chairman Kim taught me never to show all my cards. Always keep something in reserve. Always have a contingency plan. The upload bar hit 75%. Let Amara go, Dae-young said, his voice steel. The files are going public either way. But if you release her now, I'll tell the authorities that you and your team had nothing to do with the Kim family's crimes. That you were just following orders. It's not much, but it might keep you out of prison. Min-jae looked at Amara. Then at his men. Then back at Dae-young. Chairman Kim will kill my family, he said quietly. Chairman Kim is going to be too busy fleeing the country to worry about your family, Dae-young countered. The moment those files go live, every government in Asia will be issuing warrants. Every corrupt official will turn on him to save themselves. He'll be lucky if he survives the week. Min-jae closed his eyes. When he opened them, there was resignation there. And maybe relief. Let her go, he told his men. But sir, I said let her go. Min-jae's voice cracked. It's over. The upload will finish in minutes. We've lost. The man holding Amara released her. She ran to the edge of the roof, preparing to jump the gap. Wait, Min-jae called. You'll never make that jump. Not without a running start, and there's not enough room. He pulled out a rope from one of the tactical bags his men carried. Use this. Tie it off, swing across. It's safer. Why are you helping us? Amara asked. Because, Min-jae said with a sad smile. Dae-young was the best boss I ever had. And you make him happy. That's worth more than loyalty to a monster like Chairman Kim. 3 minutes later, Amara was across the gap, in Dae-young's arms, both of them shaking with adrenaline and relief. On Dae-young's phone, the upload bar hit 100%. Upload complete. Files distributed to 247 recipients. It's done, Dae-young whispered against Amara's hair. It's really done. Chairman Kim can't hurt us anymore. Can't hurt anyone anymore. Across the gap, Min-jae and his men were already disappearing back into the building. Running, probably. Getting as far from Sao Paulo as possible before the full weight of what had just happened came crashing down. What happens now? Amara asked. Now. Dae-young pulled back to look at her, and his smile was genuine, unguarded, free. Now we disappear for real. Not running. Not hiding. Just living. We find a place where no one knows our names. Build something real. Something good. Together, Amara said. Together, Dae-young confirmed. 2 months later in Santorini, Greece. The villa overlooked the Aegean Sea. All white walls and blue shutters and bougainvillea spilling over every surface. Amara stood on the terrace, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Behind her, she heard Dae-young moving around the kitchen. He was cooking, something he'd started doing in the past month, claiming it was therapeutic. She believed him. He seemed lighter now, less burdened. The man he might have been if Chairman Kim had never existed. "Food's ready," he called in English. His accent had softened with practice. Amara turned and her breath caught. Not because of the meal, though it smelled incredible, but because Dae-young was down on one knee. "I know I said I'd wait until we were safe," Dae-young said, pulling out a small box. "I know I promised a proper proposal when Chairman Kim was no longer a threat. Well." He opened the box, revealing a ring. Not the cold, perfect diamond from Seoul. This was different. A sapphire, deep blue like the Aegean, surrounded by smaller diamonds. Chairman Kim was arrested 3 days ago in Manila. 47 counts of corruption, conspiracy to commit murder, and about a dozen other charges. He'll die in prison. His empire is destroyed. Every official he ever bribed is scrambling to save themselves. Dae-young's voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly. "We're safe, Amara. Really truly safe. So I'm asking you now properly, with no contracts or debts or families pulling strings." He looked up at her with eyes full of love and hope and promise. "Marry me. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Because I want to spend every day for the rest of my life making you happy. Watching sunsets. Cooking meals that are probably terrible. Building a life that's ours and no one else's." Amara was crying. Happy tears this time. The kind she'd thought she'd never cry again. "Yes," she said, dropping to her knees in front of him. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Not because I have to, but because I love you. Because you chose me over revenge. Because you saw me as a person when everyone else saw a transaction." She kissed him deep and long and full of promise. When they broke apart, Dae-young slid the ring onto her finger. "Fit perfectly. Where did you get this?" Amara asked, admiring how the sapphire caught the light. "I made it," Dae-young admitted. "Took a jewelry making class in town. The instructor thought I was insane. Some Korean guy with no experience trying to craft an engagement ring from scratch. But I wanted it to be special, unique, just for you." "It's perfect," Amara whispered. "You're perfect." "I'm really not," Dae-young said with a laugh. "I'm a former enforcer for a criminal syndicate with more blood on my hands than I can count. I'm broken and damaged and probably going to have nightmares for the rest of my life." "Then we'll have nightmares together," Amara said. "And we'll build something beautiful anyway. Out of all the broken pieces. Something real." Later that night, as they lay tangled together in bed, Dae-young's phone buzzed with a message. He checked it, then smiled. "What?" Amara asked sleepily. "Your father," Dae-young said. "He wants to know if he can visit. Says he has 8 years of apologies to make and wants to start soon." Amara was quiet for a moment. "Tell him yes," she said finally. "But tell him he's staying in a hotel. And he's bringing flowers. A lot of flowers. You're going to forgive him." Jing asked. "I'm going to try," Amara corrected. "He's still my father. He made terrible choices, but he also kept me alive when the Kim family could have killed me any time. That counts for something." She rolled over to look at Dae-young. "Besides, if we're building a new life, we can't do it carrying all this anger. We have to let some of it go. Not forget, never forget. But let go." "I got accepted to medical school," Amara announced suddenly. "The University of Athens. I applied 2 weeks ago. Figured it was time to finish what my mother started. She wanted to be a doctor before the Kim family recruited her." Dae-young's smile was blinding. "That's incredible. I'm so proud of you. What about you?" Amara asked. "What do you want to do now that you're not running a criminal empire?" "I don't know yet," Dae-young admitted. "Maybe I'll finish that jewelry making class. Open a shop. create beautiful things instead of destroying them. He pulled her closer. Or maybe I'll just support my brilliant doctor wife while she saves lives and changes the world. Wife, Amara repeated, testing the word. I like how that sounds. Me too. Ding kissed her forehead. When do you want to get married? Traditional Korean ceremony. Nigerian. Something completely different. Something completely different, Amara decided. Right here. On this terrace. Just us and whoever we choose to invite. No families dictating terms. No contracts. Just love. Just love, Ding echoed. I can do that. A week later they were married. The ceremony was small. Amara's father attended, looking older but genuinely happy for his daughter. Min Jae came too. He'd gone into witness protection, his family safe, and was building a new life in Argentina. A few friends they'd made in Santorini. The owner of the jewelry shop where Dae-young had taken his class. Amara wore white linen, simple and perfect. Dae-young wore a suit in soft gray, no tie, looking relaxed and younger than she'd ever seen him. They wrote their own vows. I promise to choose you every day, Amara said, her voice steady despite the tears. Not because a contract says I have to. Not because we're running from something. But because you're the best decision I ever made. My partner. My love. My home. I promise to be worthy of that choice, Dae-young replied. To spend every day earning your trust, your love, your faith in me. To protect you not because you need protecting, but because I can't imagine a world where you're not safe and happy. To ruin you for other men. He paused, and they both laughed through tears, remembering that first threat in Seoul. Not through cruelty, he continued, but through love so deep that nothing else will ever compare. That night, as fireworks exploded over the Aegean, some local festival neither of them understood, Amara and Dae-young stood on their terrace, wrapped in each other's arms. Do you ever regret it? Amara asked quietly. Giving up your empire. Walking away from all that power. Not once, Dae-young said immediately. I was a king of nothing, ruling over blood and fear and stolen wealth. But this. He gestured to the villa, to the sea, to the simple life they'd built. This is everything. Even though we're poor now, Amara teased. They weren't actually poor. Dae-young had hidden enough money over the years to keep them comfortable. But it was nothing compared to what he'd had before. Especially because we're poor now, Dae-young corrected. Everything we have we earned honestly. Everything we are we built together. No one owns us. No one controls us. He turned her in his arms to face him. You asked me once what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I didn't have an answer then. But I do now. What? Amara asked. I want to love you. His voice was simple, honest, devastating in its sincerity. Every day. In every way. I want to watch you become a doctor. I want to support your dreams. I want to build a family, kids maybe if you want them. Or just us if you don't. I want to grow old with you and have decades of stories to tell about how we started. The Mafia boss and the sold daughter, Amara mused. Who fell in love while running for their lives. The two broken people, Dae-young corrected, who found each other in the darkness and decided to build something beautiful instead. He kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, the fireworks were still exploding above them, painting the night in colors neither of them had words for. 5 years later, Dr. Amara Kong stood in the clinic she'd opened in Athens, treating patients who couldn't afford traditional medical care. Her husband ran a jewelry shop 3 blocks away, creating beautiful pieces and teaching classes to anyone who wanted to learn. They had a daughter, 3 years old, dark skin like her mother, Korean features like her father, and a spirit that suggested she'd inherited the best and worst of both families. They named her Adiz, after Amara's mother. And on quiet nights, when their daughter was asleep and the Athens streets were peaceful, Amara and Dae-young would sit on their balcony and remember the fear, the running, the impossible choices. But mostly they remembered the moment when everything changed. When a man who'd threatened to ruin her chose to save her instead. When a woman who'd been sold like property decided she was worth fighting for. When 2 broken people looked at each other across a roof in Sao Paulo and chose love over everything else. Do you think we'd do it all again? Amara asked one night. If we knew how it would end. Ding pulled her closer, kissing the top of her head. Every single time, he said. The fear, the danger, the running, all of it. 'Cause it led us here. To this life, this love, this family. Together, Amara whispered. Together, Dae-young confirmed. And somewhere in the Athens night, a city full of stories continued spinning forward. But their story, the Mafia boss and the sole daughter who fell in love while the world burned around them, that story had finally found its happy ending. Not perfect, not without scars, but theirs. And that was enough. If this story of love, survival, and redemption moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Drop a comment below telling me, would you have given up the evidence to save the person you love? Or would you have let justice prevail? And if you want more stories of forbidden romance, dangerous choices, and love that defies all odds, check out the playlist linked in the description. Remember, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is fall in love with the wrong person at the right time. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep choosing love over fear.